What's up guys, and welcome back to the Cobra YouTube channel. Here's another retro review, this time for the legendary Resident Evil. Resident Evil is also known in Japan as Biohazard and is a Japanese horror game franchise which was created by Shinji Mikami and Tokuro Fujiwara and was released on March 1996 on the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn and was developed and published by video game giants Capcom. Resident Evil is now 24 years old and was the first time that I had ever played a proper horror game. I will always remember getting home one dark winter night and switching on my Sega Saturn and popping the game in. From the opening FMV to that first zombie encounter in the corridor, it had a 16-year-old me trembling in fear but in awe at the same time. Players can choose between two Alpha Team members, Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine, each with their own unique abilities. Jill has more firepower and possesses a lockpick that enables her to access areas and items easier, as well as an inventory large enough to hold up to 8 items. While Chris has limited firepower, but is more durable in terms of taking damage from enemies and has a smaller inventory that can only hold 6 items. The game then begins with STAR's team Alpha and Bravo, who are investigating a bizarre series of murders just outside of Raccoon City. On arrival, they are attacked by a group of zombie dogs and manage to flee into an abandoned mansion. However, when they arrive, not all is what it seems, as strange monsters start to attack the remaining members and many of the members end up going missing. Now it's up to you, the player, to survive this horror, find out what the hell is going on, and escape. The plot may seem simple, so much so that it is actually forgotten about for large parts of the game, but the game makes up for this with its amazing atmosphere. There is a very strong sense of isolation and stress as the player, due to the lack of resources and support, making the game a very intense experience. At some points, it does make the game a lot more cryptic than it needs to be, but for the most part, it still works in making you more immersed in the game's world. It also helps that the game plays very well too. Despite the awkward tank-like controls, the game runs at a good pace and is loads of fun, whether you're killing monsters or solving its many puzzles, with the puzzles playing a very big part throughout the game. And thanks to a nice number of creatures and weapons, it never gets old, despite how actually later in the game some of the creatures do start to regenerate, but it's still fun to fight these enemies. The puzzle solving aspect of the game is also quite good as well, with many of the puzzles being just about easy enough in order to be enjoyable, but still fairly challenging at the same time. The game's locations are also well detailed and encourage you to explore. Yes, the game isn't very big and it is limited in terms of scope, but there is enough in the game that is interesting and you will be curious to look all around the game's world to find every nook and cranny around the area, which can also be very rewarding as you can find many helpful items that will help you along the journey. The sound design for Resident Evil was also excellent. Many of the creatures sound menacing and make them feel way more intimidating, motivating you to kill them as quickly as possible. And for the most part, the music is great here too, helping to bring the game's creepy atmosphere and at certain points can be very strangely calming as it makes a nice change of pace and tone from the intense actions, like in those save areas. Unfortunately, not all is perfect in Resident Evil, considering how some parts of the game now look very dated. It is not just the comical voice acting and the poor live action sequences, but some of the gameplay aspects are very weak as well. The game can feel way too cryptic at times, and the now famous tank controls can be very annoying, causing you to die way more times than you'd like. But thinking about it now, they did kind of add some tension to the gameplay. I also found the boss fights to be a bit on the easy side, as they usually consisted of the same tactics, like circling around them and shooting at them with a rocket launcher would most of the times put the creatures out their misery, which does drain some of the fun and tension and threat when facing them, and to be honest, I always felt some of the game's regular enemies were way harder to kill than some of these bosses. Despite some of these problems, the original Resident Evil, for the most part, has aged well and stands out as not only one of the best of its genre, but one of the best video games of all time. Fun, tension-filled, and always a joy to play, it has its flaws, but it has more than enough polish and great aspects to it that make up for this. Resident Evil has gone on to be known as one of the most influential video games of all time. Resident Evil's success has spawned many franchises, including more video games, films, comics, novels, and other merchandise. Also, for those of you who want to experience a more current gen version, then I really highly recommend the Resident Evil HD remaster, which is easily the best version of the game out there. Either way, anyone who hasn't played Resident Evil, it is a true masterclass in survival horror gaming, and it's up there with some of the best video games ever. When it comes to the horror genre in gaming, well, look no further than the Resident Evil series. They're the original horror game classic makers, and Capcom hit it out of the park when they made Resident Evil, and the franchise is still going strong even today. So guys, again, thank you for watching my retro review of Resident Evil. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for joining me. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit that bell button so you get notified anytime I post a new video. As always guys, thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys on the next Joe Cobra video. Take care. Peace.
Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers, Albert Wesker, Resident Evil.